In the ICU waiting room, my brother demanded sole control of our mother's estate, claiming he was her only real flesh and blood. I threw the proxy forms at his chest and said, "Take it all, but from this second forward, I no longer exist to you." He rolled his eyes, as usual. 3 weeks later, my phone showed 74 unread messages from him. I entered the foster system at age 5. My mom took me in 2 years before she married my stepdad, and from the moment I arrived at her farmhouse in rural Oregon, she never treated me like a charity case. She taught me to rebuild engines. She drove me to state track meets in a rust bucket truck, and cheered until she lost her voice. She was my mother, period. My brother Nolan was born 4 years later. For a long time, we were just typical siblings, breaking windows, the usual chaos. But around high school, a toxic shift happened. He realized his biology was his ultimate trump card. Whenever he was caught in a lie, whenever he wanted to undermine me, it came out. "She only keeps you around out of pity." He hissed at me once when we were 17 and arguing over the car. I froze completely. He looked shocked by his own venom, like it slipped out by accident, but he never took it back and never stopped using it. By our 20s, it had turned into a permanent undercurrent in every family dynamic. Smirks at Thanksgiving dinners, calculated introductions, making sure everyone understood he was the genuine article in a way that made me look crazy if I complained. I learned to swallow it. I had my mom. When her early onset dementia began, I moved back into the farmhouse. I rearranged my life around her therapy, navigated her neurological medications, and spent endless evenings answering the same questions. Nolan wrote a self-serving blog post about losing a parent to memory loss. He dropped by maybe 4 times. I made her breakfast every single morning. About 14 months into her decline, she had a rare moment of sharp clarity. She asked me to open her cedar chest. Inside was a legal binder. She had quietly worked with a local magistrate to transfer the deed to her commercial property, a massive storage facility in downtown Portland, into a blind trust with my name as the sole beneficiary. She wasn't doing it out of spite toward Nolan. She just wanted to cement my place, to give me something concrete that he couldn't strip away with a nasty comment. I broke down crying. She squeezed my shoulder and whispered, "We don't do tears in this house." That was my mom. She suffered an incapacitating stroke 6 months later. At the hospital, Nolan showed up in a custom-tailored suit, acting like the grieving patriarch. He didn't ask the doctors a single question. In the sterile corridor outside her room, he cornered me, arms folded, using that condescending tone he always adopted when he thought he had the upper hand. He said he had filed an emergency petition for full conservatorship, arguing that as her only biological kin, he was legally entitled to control her assets. He offered to let me keep the farmhouse furniture, speaking to me like a stubborn tenant he was evicting. I thought about the thousands of morning medications, the binder in the chest, every Thanksgiving smirk, and every cruel whisper over 20 years. I said, "Take the conservatorship, take the bank accounts, but we are finished. Don't email me. Don't ever look for me. For the rest of your life, you are an only child." He let out a breathless little laugh and walked away. He liquidated her checking accounts and took out a massive line of credit against her remaining assets within a month. I knew because the bank statement still forwarded to my P.O. box. He bought a vintage Porsche, took a month-long trip to Dubai, and posted photos pretending to be a self-made entrepreneur. He seemed incredibly carefree for a guy whose mother was on life support. Then the ears audits hit. The commercial property he thought he could leverage was safely locked in my trust, meaning he had secured a $240,000 loan with fraudulent collateral. The state stepped in. Week 4, the frantic emails began. Voicemails from his panicked lawyer, begging for character references. Week 5, he physically blocked my car in the parking lot of the storage facility. He was wearing the same clothes from 2 days ago, sweating profusely, looking completely unhinged, and I noticed that before anything else. He said the state was threatening him with felony wire fraud. He just needed me to sign a waiver, just to release the property deed, just to keep him out of federal prison. He swore we were brothers. I rolled my window up halfway and said, "You told me you were an only child. Act like it." Then I drove back to the property my mother made sure he could never touch.